Imagine for a moment that you're standing in a room filled with smoke. It's thick, heavy, choking your lungs. You know the fire is somewhere close, but instead of running for the exit, you stay. You tell yourself, maybe if I wait, the smoke will clear. Maybe if I hold my breath long enough, it'll get better. That's what being in a toxic relationship feels like. You're suffocating, and yet you convince yourself to stay because leaving feels even scarier. Here's the hard truth. The smoke never clears. The longer you stay, the more it poisons you. Now, I want you to ask yourself something, and don't answer it quickly. Let it sink in. What has staying in the wrong relationship already cost you? Think about the hours of sleep you've lost, replaying the same arguments in your head. Think about the energy you've wasted explaining yourself to someone who never really listens. Think about how many times you've doubted your own worth because of how they treat you. This is not about romance only. Toxicity shows up in friendships, in family, in colleagues, in anyone who drains the life out of you instead of fueling it. And the longer you tolerate it, the more you shrink into someone you barely recognize. But here's the secret no one tells you: leaving doesn't destroy you. It saves you. You're not running away. You're breaking free. And freedom is where you finally breathe again. So today, I want to take you on a journey. A hard one, but a necessary one. Because if you're brave enough to leave behind what is killing your spirit, you make space for something better. Not just better people, but a better version of you. Are you ready? Because by the end of this conversation, you won't look at toxic relationships the same way ever again. When you think about toxicity in relationships, it doesn't always come with flashing warning signs. It's not always someone screaming in your face or blatantly mistreating you. Most of the time, it's subtle. It seeps in slowly, drip by drip, until one day you realize you're exhausted, drained, and carrying weight that was never meant to be yours. Recognizing toxicity is the first and hardest step because it requires you to face the truth. Not every person in your life has good intentions for you, and not every connection is worth holding on to. Toxic relationships can look like constant criticism disguised as jokes. Maybe every time you share your dreams, they cut them down with sarcasm, making you feel small for even daring to want more. You laugh it off in the moment because you don't want to seem too sensitive, but deep inside, it stings. Over time, those little cuts add up. They chip away at your confidence until you start questioning yourself. Am I overreacting? Maybe I really don't deserve more. That's the subtle poison. You don't notice it at first, but eventually it rewrites the way you see yourself. Another sign is control. Not the obvious kind where someone tells you what to do outright, but the quieter version. They guilt you into choices. They make you feel bad for spending time with others. They keep track of what you owe them. Emotional debts, favors, loyalty, and use it as leverage. Before you know it, your life feels smaller, more confined, like you're constantly walking on eggshells. And here's the thing. If you have to monitor your words and actions out of fear of how someone will react, that's not love, that's not friendship, that's control. Let's talk about energy. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone. Do you walk away lighter, inspired, motivated, or do you feel heavier, drained, and insecure? A toxic relationship always leaves you with less than what you brought in. You start the conversation feeling okay, but by the end, you're carrying all of their problems, their anger, their bitterness. You walk away questioning yourself, doubting your worth. That's not by accident. It's because toxic people project their own insecurities onto others. They can't stand to see you whole, so they chip away at you until you fit into the broken space they live in. Sometimes toxicity hides under the mask of love. Think about the person who says, "I'm only doing this because I care about you." But their actions don't uplift you. They control and suffocate you. Or the friend who only calls when they need something, who disappears when you're struggling, but expects you to drop everything when they're in crisis. That's not reciprocity, that's exploitation. A healthy relationship is built on give and take, not take and take and take. And let's not ignore the silent treatment, the emotional cold wars where instead of communicating, they withdraw affection to punish you. It's not just about what's said, but also what's withheld. If you've ever begged for the bare minimum, respect, kindness, honesty, you're not in a healthy relationship. You're in a dynamic where someone benefits from keeping you in a constant state of uncertainty. And uncertainty is the fuel toxic people thrive on. Here's another way to recognize toxicity. Patterns. One bad day doesn't make a relationship toxic. Everyone gets angry. Everyone makes mistakes. But if disrespect, manipulation, and dismissal become the pattern, that's the truth you need to face. It's not a one-time slip, it's who they are choosing to be with you. And you cannot change someone's choices, no matter how much you love them, no matter how much you give. One of the biggest traps is blaming yourself. Toxic people are masters at flipping the script. Somehow you end up apologizing for things you didn't even do. You explain yourself endlessly, hoping they'll finally understand your perspective. But they never do. They don't want to understand, because if they acknowledged your truth, they'd have to face their own behavior. And that's something they're not willing to do. Recognize this. If every disagreement ends with you being the villain, you're not in a fair relationship. You're in a manipulative one. Toxicity also reveals itself in how someone reacts to your growth. Think about the times you've shared good news, a promotion, a personal win, a new opportunity. Did they celebrate you, or did they diminish it, maybe even act annoyed or jealous? A toxic person doesn't want to see you rise, because your rising threatens the version of you they need. The smaller, more controllable version. The people who truly love you will cheer when you win. The people who don't will secretly hope you fail, so they can feel comfortable again. Here's a test you can run in your own life. Take inventory of your closest relationships. Ask yourself, do I like who I am when I'm around this person? Because if you consistently feel less confident, less valued, less yourself, that's a clear sign something is wrong. Healthy relationships bring out the best in you. Toxic ones strip it away piece by piece until you don't even recognize the person in the mirror. The hardest part of recognizing toxicity is the denial. We tell ourselves, it's not that bad. Maybe it'll change. Maybe I'm the problem. But that's the trap. That's how you stay stuck. Because acknowledging the truth means you have to do something about it. And doing something is uncomfortable. But here's the reality. The discomfort of facing the truth is temporary, while the damage of ignoring it is permanent. So start paying attention. Not to the words people say, but to the way you feel around them. Not to the promises they make, but to the patterns they repeat. Stop excusing disrespect just because it comes from someone you love. And most importantly, remember this. The way people treat you is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of theirs. The moment you begin to recognize toxicity, you take your power back. You stop living in denial, and you start living in truth. And truth is where freedom begins. Staying in a toxic relationship comes at a price, and the cost is far higher than most people realize. When you stay in a space where you are constantly belittled, drained, or manipulated, you're not just enduring a difficult situation, you are sacrificing pieces of yourself every single day. The tragedy is that the damage doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, and because it doesn't feel like one big blow, you convince yourself it's manageable. But here's the truth. Staying costs you your energy, your confidence, your opportunities, and sometimes even your health. Think about your time. Time is the one resource you can never get back. Every day you spend in a toxic relationship is a day you could have used to build something better. But instead, you're stuck replaying arguments, apologizing for things you didn't do, or trying to fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. It's like pouring water into a bucket with holes. It doesn't matter how much you give, it never fills. And when you look back, you realize years have slipped through your fingers while you were busy fighting battles that were never yours to fight. That's the cost of staying wasted time you can never recover. Now think about your energy. Have you ever noticed how drained you feel after being around certain people? It's not physical tiredness, it's soul exhaustion. You could get a full night's sleep, eat well, exercise, but one conversation with that toxic person leaves you feeling like you've been carrying a 100-pound weight on your shoulders. Energy is your life force, the thing you need to chase dreams, to grow, to be present for the people you love. Toxic relationships siphon that energy, leaving you with nothing left for yourself. And the cruel part is, the more depleted you become, the less capable you feel of walking away. It's a cycle that feeds on itself. Then there's the cost to your confidence. Staying in a toxic relationship often means being fed a steady diet of criticism, doubt, and blame. Over time, even the strongest person starts to question themselves. Maybe you've heard things like, "You're too sensitive," or "You'll never find anyone better," or "You're lucky I even put up with you." The longer you hear those lies, the more they begin to sound like truth. And once you start believing them, you lose the ability to see your own worth. That's not a small price, it's everything. Because when you forget your worth, you accept less than you deserve. Not just in one relationship, but in every area of your life. Staying also costs you your peace of mind. How many nights have you stayed awake replaying the same arguments in your head? How many times have you rehearsed conversations in the mirror, trying to get the words just right so they won't twist them against you? Living in a toxic relationship is like living on a battlefield. You're always bracing for the next explosion, the next manipulation, the next storm. That constant state of hyper-alertness isn't just emotionally exhausting, it's physically damaging. Chronic stress raises your blood pressure, weakens your immune system, and ages you faster. The price of staying can literally be your health. And don't forget the opportunities you lose. Every moment you spend trying to fix a toxic relationship is a moment you're not investing in your own growth. You could be learning a new skill, pursuing a career goal, or building healthier connections, but instead, you're trapped in damage control. Toxic relationships are thieves. They steal your potential by keeping you small, distracted, and consumed with problems that don't lead anywhere. Imagine all the doors you never opened because your hands were too full carrying the weight of someone else's chaos. That's the silent cost. The dreams you never chase, the goals you never reach, the life you never fully live. There's also the emotional cost of staying stuck in something that doesn't serve you. You lose trust in yourself. Deep down, you know the situation isn't right. Your gut tells you, your body tells you. But every time you silence that voice, you weaken your connection to your own intuition. And when you stop trusting yourself, you feel lost, disconnected, powerless. That's what toxicity does. It teaches you to doubt your own compass, making it even harder to leave. Let's talk about relationships beyond the toxic one. When you stay in a destructive dynamic, it doesn't just affect you, it ripples out to everyone else around you. Your friends notice you pulling away. Your family senses something is wrong. The people who care about you can see the toll it's taking, but often you're too deep in it to notice. Sometimes you even push those good people away because the toxic relationship demands so much of your focus. That's another cost. The healthy connections that fade because all your attention is consumed by the unhealthy one. And perhaps the greatest cost of all, your future self. Imagine yourself 10 years from now, if nothing changes. If you keep tolerating the same patterns, what does your life look like? Will you be stronger, happier, freer? Or will you be even more tired, more diminished, more disconnected from who you really are? That vision should terrify you, because remaining in toxicity doesn't keep things the same, it makes them worse. Over time, you don't just lose days, you lose years. You lose the chance to become the person you were meant to be. The cost of staying is enormous, but here's what's even more devastating. Most people don't realize how high the price is until it's too late. They wake up one day, older, exhausted, wondering where their fire went. They look back and see how much they gave away and how little they got in return. Don't let that be your story. The longer you stay, the more you pay. And the truth is, the bill always comes due. Walking away is hard. Yes, it's uncomfortable, it's scary, it feels like loss. But staying costs more. Staying costs everything. And the moment you realize that, you also realize something else. Leaving is not just an option, it's survival. Fear and guilt are the two chains that keep people tied to toxic relationships long after they should have walked away. You can recognize the signs, you can understand the cost, but when it comes to actually leaving, these emotions can feel paralyzing. Fear whispers that you're not strong enough, that you'll end up alone, that you can't survive without them. Guilt convinces you that leaving makes you selfish, heartless, ungrateful. Together, fear and guilt become the perfect prison. And unless you learn to break free from them, you'll stay locked in a situation that is destroying you. Fear shows up in many forms. There's the fear of being alone. So many people tolerate toxic relationships simply because the idea of solitude feels unbearable. You think, what if I never find someone else? What if this is the best I'll ever get? That thought alone can keep you trapped. Because instead of seeing the toxic person as harmful, you start seeing them as your only option. But loneliness is not the enemy. It's a teacher. Being alone gives you the chance to rebuild, to reconnect with yourself, to remember who you are when you're not constantly being diminished. The fear of being alone is just an illusion, because the truth is, you are never truly alone. You have yourself. And once you learn to stand strong on your own, you attract relationships that reflect that strength. Then there's the fear of judgment. What will people think if you walk away? Maybe it's family pressure, cultural expectations, or the worry that friends will misunderstand. Toxic people often exploit this fear too. They'll say things like, everyone will know you gave up, or no one will believe you if you tell them why. They plant seeds of doubt so you stay silent, so you don't seek support. But here's something to remember. Other people don't live your life. They don't wake up in your body. They don't carry your pain. You're the one paying the cost of staying, not them. So why give their opinions more power than your own truth? Fear also hides in the unknown. Change is uncomfortable. Walking away means stepping into uncertainty, and uncertainty feels risky. But think about it. You already know what staying looks like. You've seen that movie 100 times, and it never ends well. So yes, leaving is uncertain, but it's also where possibility lives. It's where growth, peace, and real love can finally find you. Staying might feel safe because it's familiar, but familiar pain is still pain. Don't confuse comfort with freedom. Now let's talk about guilt, because guilt is often even harder to shake than fear. Toxic people are experts at making you feel responsible for their happiness. They'll say, I need you, or I can't do this without you, or even worse, if you leave, you'll ruin me. And if you're a kind, compassionate person, you carry that weight. You sacrifice yourself to keep them afloat. But here's the truth. You are not responsible for saving someone else at the cost of drowning yourself. Their happiness is their responsibility, not yours. Guilt tries to make you believe that leaving is cruelty, when in reality it's self-preservation. Sometimes the guilt comes from loyalty. Maybe you've invested years. Maybe you share history. Maybe they were there for you once. So you tell yourself, I owe them. I can't just walk away. But think about it. Loyalty is not meant to be a prison sentence. Loyalty is earned by respect, not by suffering. If someone consistently disrespects you, manipulates you, or drains you, they have already broken the contract of loyalty. You don't owe endless loyalty to someone who poisons your life. There's also the guilt of identity. You've told yourself for so long that you're the caretaker, the problem solver, the one who holds everything together. Walking away feels like betraying that identity. Who are you if you're not the fixer?